The All Progressives Congress on Monday announced the immediate past Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godwin Akpabio, as his consensus candidate for Senate presidency in the 10th Assembly. The ruling party also adopted the chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, Senator Jibrin Barau, as the next Deputy Senate President. The zoning of the key positions by the APC has generated mixed reactions, as some senators have opposed Akpabio's selection. The senator representing Borno South District, Ali Undume, said the nomination of Godswill Akpabio by the All Progressives Congress National Working Committee does not imply Akpabio is the anointed candidate of the party for Senate President of the 10th National Assembly. With Akpabio's selection, another concern being raised by the general public is the possibility of a rubber-stamp Senate that many have kicked against. Joining us on this show to discuss Godswill Akpabio's selection by the APC National Working Committee is Hilliard Etta, former acting national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Welcome to the morning show, Mr. Etta. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati, for having me.
Thank you. Well, I guess the matter speaks for itself. I will be interested in your take on the APC National Working Committee selecting persons that should become leaders of the National Assembly, both at the Senate and the House of Representatives. And then the protest by other interested parties from the North Central, from the Northwest, from the Northeast, that what the Constitution says, Section 50 thereof, is that the lawmakers shall choose from among themselves. But here we have a conflict between legislative independence and party supremacy. But what do you think?
Well, let me start by saying that the opposition to the position taken by the party is natural. There are people who are interested in occupying those offices. But you must also know that those people are also members of the party. The eternal conversation around the issue of party supremacy has to be taken within the context of our political development. As you know, we have developed a culture where political offices are used to bring cohesion and bring a sense of belonging amongst the very many interest groups around the country. And it is incumbent on the party to make sure that nobody is left behind. Now, it is true that the Constitution says that the members of the party, the members of the Senate shall elect their leadership. But you must also know that given that Nigeria is a heterogeneous, multi-ethnic, multi-interest environment, that there is a need for the party to bring order in such a manner that everyone who comes to the floor of the National Assembly has some sense of belonging. If the party was to allow for a free-for-all contest, then you might have a situation where even the minority party, the opposition party, may find a way of bringing leadership to the Senate or the House of Reps. I think that the party has done its duty, and you know that the president-elect, as the incoming ultimate leader of the party, has a moral duty of helping fashion a route for peace, cohesion within the party by helping the party select the leadership of the National Assembly. As you had it in 2015, party members can decide to not listen to the party, but we who are party administrators, party managers, would always ask party members to remember that before they went into these positions, they were members of the party first, and they have to listen to what the party has to say. Those who defied the party in 2015, 4 years after, you can do your mathematics. You can go back to 2018 and see what happened to them. You see, I am not saying that the party has to push this down the throat of members of the National Assembly, but the party has the right to persuade them to see things from the perspective of the party. I think that is where we are at now. Feelings have to be assuaged. The party has much more than just setting the tone. The party has the duty of going into the National Assembly and assuaging feelings and talking to our members until we arrive at a consensus around the choice or the choices that the party has made.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Etta. Now, I hear you in terms of assuaging the feelings or assuaging the members of the APC who feel that this choice or perhaps this announcement is not in their best interest. Dr. Batia talked about the North Central members of the APC in the House. How would you go about, or how would you recommend that the APC goes about bringing them on board? Because you need, you have a simple majority in the Senate, but it is not significant enough to not have an upstaging as we had in 2015. So this has to be managed very wisely. How would you recommend they go about doing this? And then again, the question then begs, why was the North Central left out in terms of the principal positions? I know there are other positions, but when we talk about the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, Speaker of the House, Deputy Speaker, these are the main positions. So the question is, why do you think they were not considered in the zoning?
First of all, you must understand that these offices in the National Assembly are not just the offices that are within the government to share amongst the zones. First of all, you must know that the national chairman of the party is from the North Central. That does not preclude the North Central from being allocated other offices within the government. There is the secretary to the government. There are so many offices to be shared around the country. So it will be too early in the day to say that a particular zone has been marginalized. In taking these decisions, I'm very sure that the party took a lot of variables, a lot of things into consideration. But these decisions must be taken. These decisions must be taken. You do not know, for instance, where the secretary to the federal government will come from. You do not know where the chief of staff will come from. You do not know where all of these very high-ranking positions in government will come from. I believe that at the end of the day, every zone in the country will be carried along. So it is not just the positions that you have in the National Assembly. In fact, even in the National Assembly, there are positions like the leader, the deputy leader, the whip, and all of those kinds of positions that are yet to be shared amongst the zones. So it is not true that the North Central has been deliberately. After all, the man who presided over the allocation of these offices is from the North Central. So you cannot begin to think that the man will hurt himself or hurt his zone. I believe that he knows that other positions are there to be shared around. And so at the end of the day, everybody will be carried along.
Mr. Asa, good morning, sir. Good to see you. The question is,
it's good to see you.
Let me come in local parlance. After they don't share everything finish, what it can remain? Because you say there are some other important positions. I'd like to know, is it Secretary of the State Government, federal government, a lot of people don't really regard as, a big position as such? Because when you look at the hierarchy, the president, the vice president, the Senate president is next, and the speaker. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4 position. And in all of this, the Southeast, with all of their agitation, were not considered. And secondly, there are people that are disgruntled in the party. So take, for instance, Orji Kalu. He thought he would have been, in a better state to be able to get this. Obviously, since the South is not considered, he's saying, I'm still going to go ahead. Even take the other people people like Mr. Wase, that served in the last administration, that is still in this night assembly anyway, as deputy speaker to Mr. Gbajabia Miller, and looks and says, oh, I also stand a chance. So what do you say to people like that? And that's why I use that local power. After they don't share everything, finish 1, 2, 3, 4. What's it going to remain?
My brother Rufai, before we had these 2023 elections, we have had elections in Nigeria, and we've always only had those 4 positions in the National Assembly as key positions, and they've also been shared to the zones, excluding 1 or 2 zones in the past. You are aware that from 1999, the Southeast has been, I think, has had about 4 or 5 Senate presidents. So it is not as if that it is a perpetual thing. When the party, I've told you that before the party would have taken the decision, the party would have brought a lot of variables to bear. There are 4 positions, the 4 key positions in the National Assembly. I think that the leader of the Senate and the leader of the House of Reps are also very key positions. And these, we have not discussed this. Now, I do not want us to go into personalities, but if you want us to go into personalities, I'd like to tell you this. Orji Kalu is eminently qualified to be the president of the Senate. But even from outside of the party in, I do know that Orji Kalu did not contribute much to the success of the party in this election. And so we cannot, in the past 8 years, and I keep saying this, in the past 8 years, we have had a party that does not reward hard work and does not reward loyalty. I think the party, the president-elect and the new leadership of the party is beginning on a new slate, a fresh slate where people are rewarded for their hard work and their loyalty. So, and also talking about the Southeast, I do not think that the Southeast has been marginalized by the party. The party has not finished its allocation of offices. And until that is done and nothing is given to the Southeast, that you can now say that the Southeast has been marginalized. So for now, I think it's too early in the day. There are only 4 positions that have been discussed. We have not had any conversations around other positions in government. We have not even had discussions and conversations around positions, other positions in the National Assembly that are key. So I would like for us not to begin to preempt the party and the government, preempt the president-elect in terms of the selection of key officers of the party, and preempt the party in allocation of other offices that are yet to be allocated. I think that we should just tarry a while, give the party some chance, a breathing space, give the president-elect some breathing space. After all, there is a law now in the country that the president-elect has only 60 days from the day of inauguration to set up government. So in the next few months, I'm very sure that the government will be properly filled up, and we'll see that every zone of this country will be taken along. Please, let us leave names out of this. Let us talk about zones and regions. Because if we talk about Honorable Wase is the sitting deputy speaker. The sitting speaker has not been given any position. So let's not begin to talk about who has been given position and who has not been given position. The ones that are lucky that the party has given them the positions does not signify that others will not be given positions.
Okay. Mr. Etta, let me ask you. Let's go beyond your party members and your party staging a drama over the sharing of the spoils of victory. I see that even some of the anointed persons have already begun the circus of visiting traditional rulers, visiting former heads of state, and just making a joke out of all of this. But what will be your expectations in terms of what the 10th National Assembly should do? Because there are many serious issues on the table that the next assembly should work on. And Nigerians do not expect a rubber stamp assembly. So if you were to set an agenda for that next assembly as a body, what will you say should be the main immediate priorities?
Dr. Martin, let me start by saying that there is this thinking that partnership is rubber stamping. I do know that the National Assembly constitutionally is set up to be a check on the executive. But it is not also in the interest of the country if the National Assembly becomes a competition, an enemy to the executive. So there must be a balance. Whereas you are able to check the executive, you must also know that you are a partner in the the building of this nation, national building. Having said so, let me say that for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we have a progressive president that is coming on board. My take on what is expected of the 10th National Assembly is that they must be on the same page on the matter of the progress of Nigeria, on the matters of education, on the matters of revenue generation. You know, one of the greatest deficits of the Nigerian state is that the Nigerian state has not, apart from discovering oil and discovering things under the earth, the Nigerian state has never sat down to think about generating revenue from above the earth. So this is a man, I believe that he is going to engage himself in the generation of revenue so that we can focus on things like education and health that has been in complete deficit in the Nigerian economy for a very long time. So we believe that the 10th National Assembly should be on the same page with the president on matters of progress, matters of education, matters of tax, matters of revenue generation, matters of the new technology that has enveloped the world. We need that kind of knowledge-based 10th Assembly that will help us in taking Nigeria to where Nigeria should be at this time. So that, for me, is what the National Assembly should concern itself with.
Hi, Mr. Etta, did you say that the president-elect is the first progressive we've had in the history of Nigeria? I think you made that statement.
Yes, that is correct.
So how would you then describe the sitting president who's also...
To my understanding, please.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm asking you. I mean, it's an opportunity for me to then ask you, since you are the former acting national chairman of the All Progressives Party, or Congress, where the current president is a member of, how would you describe his administration? Because I want to assume that you would have also used very complimentary terms to describe him, but the feelings of Nigerians or some Nigerians would perhaps disagree. And now you're saying that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the first in the history of Nigeria. How would you describe the current president then?
Well, when you know the meaning of progressivism, for me, it is when the ordinary person is at the epicenter of all governmental policies. That, for me, is progressivism. Progress means that you see education the way it is now, and you find creative and new ways to take education away from where it is now to where it should benefit society far better. You look at health and you see the way it is today, and you move it to where, creatively, to where it should benefit society better. That is progress. That is progressivism. If you juxtapose that with the past 8 years.
So just to ask you, so you're saying that this current administration wasn't innovative, they weren't creative, especially in these areas you've mentioned in terms of education and other aspects of the nation, because if this is the first progressive president, it means that they weren't innovative, they weren't creative.
No, what I can say for the president is that he laid foundation for for progress to happen. He led foundation. Progress, innovation will come. And innovation, you will see it in the way that the revenue of Nigeria will be expanded. You will see it in the new and creative ways that education will be handled. If you read the renewed hope agenda of the president-elect, you will come to the conclusion that those ideas are ideas that are going to catapult various sectors of the Nigerian economy to a new height, a height never gotten to in the history of Nigeria. I can assure you that when progress will come, you will just know that this government has done a lot. But I would like to say that this government built the foundation for progress to come.
So invariably what you're saying is that President Buhari is the John the Baptist of progress, if I can use that word, is the forerunner of the progress that will come. But let me take you up on something. You said something very interesting, Maga.
The words are your own, Husseini. The words are your own.
Okay, it's fine. You said something very interesting, Maga. Let's go straight to it. You said rubber stamp is like collaboration, isn't it? That what a lot of people mistake for rubber stamp is collaboration between the executive and the legislative arm, isn't it? I will suppose that that's an assertion you'd like.
I said sometimes.
Sometimes.
No.
Yeah.
I said sometimes.
Okay, you said sometimes.
Yes.
Good. That's a caveat. So let me extrapolate on that your sometimes of this assertion by saying, would you call the executive encouraging the National Assembly to brazenly break the laws of the land in terms of passing ways and means that are at variance with the CBN Act, which a lot of people say is a reflection of the rubber stamp nature and the shenanigans that happen? Would you call that collaboration? Or would you condemn what ought to be condemned?
I can tell you for free that anyone who commits a crime, commits an infraction of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, cannot have my support. And so if it is found that the National Assembly broke the laws of Nigeria, then you cannot have a supporter in me. But that has to be brought to the fore. You know, that's your position. I do not know what the issues are, so I cannot comment.
I just said the issue. The issue is ways and means. Prior to this time, President Muhammadu Buhari called on the National Assembly to please help us securitize ways and means because it's burdening the economy and all of that. We're paying a lot in interest. But the CBN Act says you cannot securitize ways and means. The National Assembly left it, waited till after the elections, and some days to go, they Nicodemously passed it and gave the president assent. So the executive, in the spirit, sometimes, using your word, of rubber stamp or collaborative rubber stamp, co-broke the law with the legislative. That's the trust of that matter. So
let me
are you still going to support this rubber stamp? Because a lot of people are saying this rubber stamp is an invitation to impunity.
Let me explain what I meant. My position remains that when there is a consensus on an issue that will bring progress and development to Nigeria, and we have the National Assembly and we have the executive on the same page on that issue, you cannot call it rubber stamping. Now, when a National Assembly breaks the law in collaboration with the executive, you cannot call that progress or development, and so cannot have myself, my humble self, as a supporter of that kind of collaboration, and I cannot call it collaboration. Except you want me to say that they collaborate in crime. Now, anybody who breaks the law of Nigeria should be made to face the consequences of breaking that law. What I said at first is very different from the picture you're trying to paint. What I say is that sometimes Nigerians look at the National Assembly as a rubber stamp simply because they are on the same page with the executive, and that it does not necessarily have to be so, because if they find themselves on the same page on matters of development and progress, then that is partnership in progress, not rubber stamping. I think I cannot be clearer than that.
Okay, Mr. Etta, quickly. You used a term earlier on, progressivism, you called it, right? It's a technical, philosophical word.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Attributed to Dewey, John Dewey, okay, at the center of which is pragmatism, and also that people should learn from past experiences for the purpose of progress and change. John E. Dewey, philosophy. Now, let me ask you, are there certain experiences that you think we have seen under the Buhari administration that you think the incoming Tinubu administration should avoid as a way of ensuring progress? And secondly, what do you think of the Supreme Court ruling in the Osun case, gubernatorial case, that is?
Okay, first of all, let me say that there are many issues that learning is a perpetual exercise, a perpetual human exercise. And those who do not learn cannot grow, cannot develop. The past 8 years are replete with successes and failures. You cannot say because you have successes, you did not have failures. And for a man who needs to grow, for a man who must grow, you must look at the failures of the past 8 years and never make them in the next 4 years. That is progress itself. And so, for instance, I would like my president to be far more decisive than our current president. Far more decisive. I would also like a situation where our incoming president is far more engaging with the Nigerian people than the current president. I would also like a situation where even within the party that I belong to, that hard work, loyalty to the party is rewarded. And this has been very absent in the past 8 years. I would also like a listening government. A government, when people talk about nepotism and you seem to think that the government is not listening, I would like my president-elect to listen to those things, because we belong to a multi-ethnic, multi-dimensional, multi-religious, multi-everything. It is a heterogeneous environment. And so our president-elect must listen very carefully to the Nigerian people. All of these kinds of things, you have to avoid them. These are avoidable pitfalls. And I am glad to have the kind of president-elect that we have, because he's a man who listens, he's a man who learns, he's a man who likes progress. And I believe that there will be progress and development in Nigeria.
Okay, well, maybe you don't want to comment
and
on
again,
Osun.
let me talk about the Osun,
briefly though,
the Osun verdict of the.
Briefly.
Yes, I want to congratulate Governor Adeleke and to say to all Nigerians that we must always have respect for the judiciary, whether we find them, at the wrong, whether we find ourselves at the wrong side or the right side of their judgments. We must have respect. That is the only way, even if we find faults in the judiciary, that is the only way that we can redress or address those faults. Only when we abide and respect the judgments of the judiciary. I congratulate the governor, and I ask our party to put in more work in the next election to come.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hilliard Etta, for joining us on The Morning.